Hi, in this lesson I'm going to show you a very simple way to do what I call an instant blues or rock and roll solo in the key of C. This works over those 3 chord trick songs that we so often find in blues and rock and roll and lots of other forms as well. And it uses a neat little trick. So first of all, in the key of C we need to know what our chords are. Our big 3 chords in the key of C, you will have played them a million times, are C, F and G or G7. And quite frequently people will take solos over these, but as uke players we're often not really focusing on taking instrumental breaks. We tend to be more of a rhythm player, an accompanist. We're playing along with songs. But if somebody does turn to you and say, take it, then you've got to do something. So what can we do? I'll show you this neat little trick. What happens is, we have a little shape with 2 fingers. I'll show you the shapes first of all, and then how we get them from the chords. First of all, we want to put our index finger on the 6th fret of the 2nd string, like that. Then we want to put our 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the 1st string. Now make sure you've not got them that way round. This one's on the 6th fret, this one's on the 7th. That shape we're going to play there at the 6th and 7th frets. We're also going to play it at the 5th and 6th frets. And we're also going to play it at the 7th and 8th frets, but we're not going to change the shape. We're just going to slide it up and down. We're going to play a whole 12 bar blues just with that pattern. Follow along with me. I'll tell you either 6th fret, 5th fret or 7th fret. And we're just going to pluck those 2 strings that we're playing with our thumb and index finger along with the beat as we count. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th fret. Back to the 6th. Down to the 5th again. Back to the 6th. Up to the 7th. And back to the 6th where we started. You've just played an entire 12 bar blues, and our little 2-note pattern has outlined the chords. Now of course you wouldn't play a solo like that, but you can do things like this. There's the C chord and we do that one at the 6th fret. When the F chord hits, that's the 5th fret. Back to the C chord, 6th. When the G7 chord hits, we go up to the 7th. And when we're back to the C again. Really neat trick, and it works like this. If you've not explored further up the neck, these might be unfamiliar chord shapes, but what's happening is each of those 2-note patterns belongs in a higher inversion of our 3 big chords. Each one is actually a 7th chord. So rather than C, F and G7, we are turning them into, with our little pattern, C7 and F7, and of course the G7 that was already a 7. And that's a good thing to do because in the blues, that 7th sound is part of what makes us think, oh, this is a bluesy sounding thing. So it makes our solo sound authentic. It makes it sound like it should be in that kind of song and not something that sounds a bit twee and nursery rhyme-ish. The C7 chord looks like this. It's just a G7 and I slide it all the way up until my index finger's on the 6th fret and these 2 are on the 7th. That is a C7. It's just a higher version of it. And notice the highest 2 notes are the 6th fret and the 7th fret. So we're playing 2 notes that belong in C7. The F7 chord looks like this. Bar the 5th fret and add your 2nd finger at the 6th fret of the 1st string. And that's an alternative F7. Oh look, the top 2 notes are the 5th and 6th frets on those 2 strings. They fit in that chord. The G7 is exactly the same as that, but 2 frets higher. Bar the 7th and then your 2nd finger on the 8th of the 1st string. And lo and behold, we are playing the 7th and 8th frets on the top 2 strings. So all we're doing is we're playing 2 notes from a C7 2 notes from an F7 and 2 notes from a G7. We just have to put the right one over the right chord. Now I mentioned that we were using a note in that pattern to make these into 7th chords, and actually there's more to it than that. Those 2 notes are the 2 most important notes in a 7th chord. In our C7, the notes we're playing are the 7th, which tells us it's a 7th chord unsurprisingly, and the 3rd of the chord, and that's a very important note. It tells us whether that chord is major or minor. When we slide down and play the 5th and 6th frets, they are actually also the 7th and the 3rd of the F7 chord, but they've switched strings. So they're still doing the same job within the chord, but they're upside down. So instead of having the 7th and the 3rd like we had in the C, we have the 3rd and the 7th. And the same goes for the G7 because it's the same shape. We also have the 3rd of the G chord telling it's not a minor, it's a major, and that note at the top telling us it's a 7th chord. Those are really strong notes, and when soloists are trying to plan their way through a chord progression in even a very advanced jazz tune, they're going to be looking at targeting those notes because they tell us something about the song, about the chord progression, about the sound we should be making. And because they're very important notes, we hear them as very strong tones to use in a melody. A good solo should be able to take you through the chord progression without you even hearing someone strumming the chords. And targeting those tones is what people do in order to make that solo tell a little story and take us through the song. So what I recommend you do is find my 12-bar blues play-alongs, find the one in the key of C, and then just make a little mental note that the first one is the 6th and 7th frets. And then whenever it goes to the F, you go down one towards the headstock. And then go back to your C again. And whenever it goes to the G7, you want to be going up one from your starting position towards the body of the uke. And start to play around with the rhythm and which notes you play. You don't have to play both of those notes. You could keep it really sparse. So my solo might sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F chord, C chord, 3, 4. G7 chord, F, C. Really, really sparse. But even then, you can almost hear the chords from just those few notes I'm playing. Play around with it. Have fun. When you get together with other ukulele players, get them to play a 12-bar blues in CF and G7. Or if you're on your own, have a listen to my backing tracks that you can find on YouTube and just solo your heart out and start to feel where you can put notes and where you want to leave spaces, because being a soloist is all about you expressing what you want to play. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.